Dude, they just shoot through my shield so hard.
Alright, so here we are for the JV game,
Well, maybe you should play that.
and with our JV against Galesburg here. We missed our first map, which was on Elios, which Galesburg took 2-0, and we are now attacking on King's Row, and Galesburg is defending.
Alright, double shield and then have Bastion sit in there.
So they're running a bunker comp, the other team is, Galesburg, and we're trying to go with an attack bastion, trying to counter it with a bastion of our own, but they're just getting picks at this point.
I need heals.
They need to group up and resettle before we can set up anything and try and counter.
My ult's ready. We don't need heals yet. We got 2.5 minutes. The only time we're gonna need that is like.
Alright, so they're just feeding him at this point. The Reaper needs to stay out of the line of sight here. They're just trying to regroup and settle down so they can set up.
Let our shields charge. That's what we should do.
Looks like the other team is running a Bastion comp and a Torb, so they're gonna have that turret damage as well. If they can break this comp here, then they should be able to cap the point easily.
My shield's too low. Oh god.
So our Reaper is having trouble getting in their backline trying to harass them. They're setting up this bunker comp. The other team's starting to push up a little bit. They're getting a couple picks, but ultimately it's the Tigers that are going back to spawn. Gonna have to regroup.
I can use this bastion if I get the 2 shields set up, so you only need to get behind the shield.
Okay. Sigma, don't put up your shield because they're going to chew right through it. I'm going to put up my shield and then you put it.
Alright, they're gonna try and do another push here. Set up this bastion. The Reaper's gonna try and teleport in their back line. He's behind there, and he gets picked off easily. The enemy team Sigma used ult, and it looks like that's gonna be another team wipe on the Tigers.
Wait, follow me, I have a plan. Okay, so you know that bus? There's a hallway right on the left of it. If we get behind them, then they're not gonna.
So now they're gonna try and spawn camp here, the other team.
Okay, so it's right over here. See?
The Tigers are really spread out now. They really need to compress and regroup before they can put any strategies to work. As Sigma's behind enemy lines, they need to punish that. Alright, so it looks like half of the Tigers are dead. There's 10 seconds left in the round. They might want to consider switching to a dive comp here just to try and move that Bastion comp and contest the point, but it looks like they're not going to have enough time. And Galesburg holds the Tigers on a 0% marker. So now Galesburg is going to have to attack, and the Tigers will try and defend without giving up any progress. The Tigers had a really tough way of setting up a Bastion comp or any sort of strategy. They were really just not communicating well.
So what strategy would you go into this next match here?
This next match, I would go with another bunker. Honestly, bunker is the best way to hold on this map. But I would have maybe went with a Mei instead of the Reaper, just because a Mei is really good on defending. Setting up those Mei walls is crucial in holding points and area. Just splitting up half the team to have the Bastion focus it is really important. So they did decide to switch off of the Sigma and go with an Orisa here. Looks like Reaper is going to teleport up in their spawn. He's going to try and drop down and get some ult charge here. Right out of spawn. Alright. Oh, the Reaper goes down on an early pick. That's going to be tough to counter. The Pharah up top is getting another pick on the Tigers, and it looks like all the Tigers are down. So, yep. Looks like the Galesburg is going to capture the first tick on King's Row and take this second game. Hopefully the Tigers can regroup and get their bearings for the next match, which would be a capture point. So.
And what is a capture point for some of the people watching the show who's not familiar with the terminology?
So a capture point is pretty much there's going to be a zone in the map that your team has to try and get to and capture in a specific amount of time. And then once you capture that first one, you have to go to another one later on. And whoever captures the most progress will end up winning the match. So as long as they can gain control and hold the territory, they should be able to capture pretty easily.
All right, well, we're going to take a little break, and we'll get right back to the action here in a few minutes.
Good. Alright, so it looks like we're going to be going with a pretty meta build here. We're going with an Orisa and Sigma, which are probably the two best tanks in this meta right now. Going with a Junkrat, Baptiste, Moira, and a Widow. Let's see if the Widow can get an early pick out of spawn. Once again, if they can get an early cap, that's just more time for the second cap. But there's a really tough choke point at the beginning of this first cap, so hopefully they can push right through it and try and get that early cap on this one. Alright, so Widow gets picked off early. Just immediately melted by that team focusing. Well, Tigers are just waiting for that Widow to come back so they can push as a team. Trying to keep everyone alive, trying to farm ults here. Alright, it looks like they're about to start pushing. And they're gonna push left side, looks like. Oh, they switch to a Reaper from the Widow. And they get a Baptiste pick. Baptiste is down, so that's one of their primary supports lost. They might have to wait even longer. Reinhardt charging. It looks like Galesburg is starting to push up to try and push them back into their spawn. And it looks like Wellington's going to have to regroup and refocus. They switch to an Ashe off of the Reaper, so let's see if they're trying to regroup here. And the Ashe gets picked off already by the Widow. That Widow's gotten a couple of early picks on their team, just stopping them from pushing. And it looks like they have a Hanzo ult going. Good Orisa pull on their team, trying to suck them back into it. Just tons of damage there. And it looks like Wellington's going back to the drawing board in their spawn.
They are playing a very good team here. Galesburg looks like they've been playing together for quite a while.
Alright, it looks like Wellington's going to start pushing again. Galesburg still extremely pushed up. They could just capitalize on it. The Orisa goes down. And it looks like their team's going to get wiped again. They're back to the drawing board. There's a minute 30 left. They have to try and get all 3 ticks left on that cap point still. If they could just somehow find a way out of this choke point, they could just move that comp back and hopefully try and get some picks off of that. Looks like they're going to be looking to push a little bit far right. Got Widow set up there, just looking into their spawn. That Widow gets the Orisa early in their spawn. They have a minute left. They might be interested in running a dive comp. That Widow is still just holding them in their spawn. Just that pressure from having a Widow up there. And the Widow takes down the Orisa again. Orisa was trying to push left while their team was pushing right. So that was a little capitalization on their part. So the team's starting to push right. They got through the choke point. As long as they can get on this point and move the team, that'll push everybody out of positioning.
There you go. They're on the point.
They're trying to cap right now. They're contesting. There's 30 seconds left. If they can just... Oh, and that Widow is just terrorizing them up there. If only they could get somebody up there to counter them. Or give a little bit more pressure to that Widow. Very good on the Widow's part, just finding picks. Oh, it looks like Bubbles with his ult. They got 3 picks on the enemy team. They might be able to cap here, and it looks like they're going to in overtime. They got a team kill. Great part on Wellington, just a couple ults being used and capitalizing on that out of place positioning by the Galesburg. So now they have a reset clock to 3 minutes. They're going to try and cap this point again. That Widow is still up top. And it looks like the Widow duel goes to Galesburg. We have the Junkrat flanking behind the enemy team here. They get an early pick on the Ana, which is one of their primary healers. That Junkrat gets picked off and takes down the Moira with him. So if Wellington could have capitalized on both their healers being gone, but unfortunately their team got wiped while that Junkrat was flanking. They're gonna have to group up again and try and push. That Widow is still watching up top. They're running a double sniper, trying to just hold them there. Hanzo on the ground, they should probably focus him. The Lucio gets a pick on their Baptiste. And it looks like Galesburg is just pushing up way overextended. If somebody could just get to the point right now, they could probably just move the team back and give a little bit of breathing room for everybody else. That Ryan is extremely low. And they got a couple picks there, but...
Yeah, Robert did a great job there with his heals, helping out his teammates there.
There's a minute 20 left, and they're going to have to try and push up. And it looks like the Junkrat ult was wasted here. So Wellington does have a couple ults. 4 to be exact. They just used the Widow ult. So they know everybody's positioning. There's a Winston behind their team. They need to focus him, and if they can take out... Oh, and there's a Hanzo ult in that corner. That was a good Hanzo ult. Finding a couple pits despite the immortality field there, and Winston there just using his ult as well, and getting a couple more picks and finishing off. There's 40 seconds left, so the Tigers are gonna have to maybe switch into a dive comp or try and push up with all their ults, because they do have quite a few. Unfortunately, they just can't get out of this choke point in their spawn. If they could just find a way to break through this, then there's 20 seconds left. They can get to the point and contest, use a couple ults, they might be able to take this round. There goes a Sigma ult. Looks like he's gonna get a... Nope. They did a lot of damage to the Lucio, but didn't quite finish him off. Half of Wellington is down, there's 1 second left, and they can't contest the second point, so they got 1 point capped, which is pretty good. As long as they can do a hold, they should be able to take this match.
Seems like the team performed much better in this match compared to the previous matches.
Well, yes, they had a couple early picks from that Junkrat play. That's pretty much what gave them the first point, was that Junkrat ult, and then a couple others. We got a pick from the Widow, and so just those key picks early on, that can just win firefights, because that's a 6-3 disadvantage for the Galesburg. So as long as they can keep getting those picks and winning these team fights, they should be able to hold fairly easily. Let's see what comp they go with. They're going with a Reinhardt switch and a Bastion, so it looks like they're going to bunker.
Yeah. As long as the team sticks together and they communicate with each other, they got a good shot of winning this.
Yeah, it's a little weird to be seeing a Lucio and a Bastion comp, because normally in Bastion comp you don't worry about mobility too much. You would probably like to run a Baptiste or a Mercy even for that damage boost, but just lack of experience, they might have to just settle with the Lucio, which it's still useful. Like that sound barrier, when they start pushing up too much, then that sound barrier can save a lot of lives.
All right, here we go. The match is about to begin.
Let's see what Galesburg is going to go with here. When they do this initial push, they're going with a dive comp most likely with a Winston and Diva. So they're going to try and get to the point. They're also going with a pharmacy strat here. So they got an early pick on that Mercy. So that's one of their primary healers down, but it looks like the Lucio goes down to a Winston. The Orisa's going to go down as well. And so Wellington is just going to try and set up on the point and hold as long as they can. So it looks like this Reinhardt's just going to get overrun. Yeah, and oh, we switched to a fair ourselves to try and counter theirs. They're still trying to contest, but that fair is just too much. So it looks like, oh, they're still trying to contest on the point. It looks like just a few Wellington players, and that's an early cap for Galesburg. They're going to have to hold for 6 minutes on this second point. As long as this Bastion can set up and focus that Farah, they should be able to hold fairly easily. And there's a Diva behind the Bastion, but the team is split up from the Bastion, so it's hard. And we got a few picks from the Farah there, trying to. And it looks like Galesburg's going to capture the second point, which is game over for Wellington JV.
Well, like we said throughout the entire match, Galesburg, they seem like a team that's been playing together for quite a while. They've been attacking without.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they were good as a team. Like as you saw there with that Hanzo ult, that Orisa pulled them all together while that Hanzo was using his ult. So that's just good communication all around from Galesburg, and hopefully in the future our team will be able to mimic something similar to that composition.
But that is the end of the JV team. At 7 o'clock, we'll be having the varsity team play next. Stay tuned.